I've been talking a lot about AI choir lately on my social medias and on my podcast regarding music, and a lot of that discussion has been focused on my more recent work, stuff I've written over the last few months, and even a few pieces that I've written specifically to be sung by a choir, by an AI choir. But over the past few days, I've been going through some of my older works, works I haven't looked at in, frankly, quite some time, and creating AI demos of some of those pieces. And there was one that actually turned out fairly well, turned out a lot better than some of the other demos that I've created that I wanted to share and talk a bit about. So the piece we're going to look at in this video is a communion anthem I wrote back in 2022. It's for SATB choir and organ, and it's called Give Us the Wings of Faith. The text is by Isaac Watts, who's a fairly well-known but very influential English hymn writer from the 1700s, and it is a text that is geared towards All Saints' Day. It's a fairly flexible anthem. Like, you could do this at various times throughout the church year, but it's really geared towards All Saints' Day. And this was premiered at the church that I sing with on All Saints' Day in 2022, and we sung it a number of times since. And now it's being sung by AI. Before we listen to the piece here, I want to talk about the value of AI choir and why you might want to do this, because like I've had a fairly wide range of responses to the work that I've shared. From people being like, AI shouldn't be in music, to, okay, hey, how can I do this? How can I create these sort of AI demos of my compositions for myself? And I want to say that for a lot of composers, especially when it comes to choral music, like, their music might kind of live and die in a notation software, right? Like, and in those notation softwares, you don't get the text playback. Like, it's not really possible to get an accurate picture of what a choral composition sounds like unless you give it to a choir. And the fact of the matter is, like, for a lot of composers, that may not be possible. And even for composers who it is possible for, like, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of my work sung by choirs, but like, if for creating content and talking about my work and kind of having it for myself to get an idea of what a piece sounds like, this is really, really, really valuable for a choral composer. If you are a choral composer and are interested in creating these sorts of AI demos of your own pieces, I have a tutorial video of the process that I do and the tools that I use to make these sorts of demos that I'll link in the description. But I've also had a lot of people in comments and in my DMs asking for tutorials on how to do this. So if you're a choral composer who wants to do something like this, don't hesitate to reach out. I want to help other composers leverage technologies like this to share their music. So on that note, let's have a listen to the piece here.
Give us the wings of faith to rise within the veil and see the saints above. Give us the wings of faith to rise within the veil and see the saints above. How great their joy, how great their joys, how bright their glories be. We ask them whence their victory came. They with one united breath ascribe their conquest to the Lamb. They triumphed of his death. Our glories be the claims of praise, for his love pattern given. While the long cloud of witnesses show the same path to heaven. Show the same path to heaven. They mark the footsteps that he trod. They mark the footsteps that he trod. His seal inside their breast, and
So that was the AI demo of my piece, Give Us the Wings of Faith, communion anthem I wrote back in 2022 for All Saints Day. And I was pretty happy with this demo. Like, there are a few small things in it. You know, it does sound digital. Like, I still don't think you're fooling anyone to make them think that this is like a real choir, but there was nothing like egregious in this. I think the thing that stuck out to me the most were words that had like an apostrophe vowel, like heaven and given. Instead of doing it in one syllable, it just kind of automatically switched it to being like 2/8 notes as like a 2-syllable word. But frankly, like, that's really not that big of a deal if you're just trying to get, a picture of what a piece sounds like. Or even I think honestly the quality of this like is probably good enough to like submit in like a school assignment or to like a composition contest or even university applications. If you didn't have live recordings or didn't have access to recording the piece with like a real life choir. This was also fairly easy to throw together. Like, I did this in less than 45 minutes and it was not particularly hard. So like less than 45 minutes, we went from, notation software, playback, all the choir parts to singing and no text, totally not realistic, to this, which is a much better type of demo than you would get otherwise. So if you are a choral composer who is interested in learning how to do this sort of AI work to create demos of your compositions, definitely check out the tutorial I created on how to do it. But also, like, don't hesitate to leave a comment or to message me on Instagram. I've actually met with a few composers and walked through the process of how to do this. I'm really excited about the idea of leveraging some of these AI tools to give composers a voice they may not have otherwise had. Again, I want to hit home the idea that for so many choral composers, people write music that just sits on their computer or gets shared in a way that doesn't incorporate the text and isn't an accurate depiction of the work that was actually done. And I think that using these technologies to share more music is a good thing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the piece and took something away from this discussion.